And we begin with the prayer. Okay. Master of all worlds, highest power, merciful parent of compassion, in your presence, eternal one, source of strength for us, as you have been for our ancestors, we very humbly acknowledge you. What are we? What is our life that you have done such great kindness to us? Therefore, we place our appeals before you, so that you may forgive and absolve us of all our faults and failings. And let our faults never become barriers between us and you. May it be your desire to prepare our hearts to feel awe and love for you. May you listen to these words of ours. May you open our encumbered hearts for the mysteries of your Torah. May this our study be a source of pleasure before your throne of glory, like sweet incense. May you shower down upon us the light of our life source, all the ways by which we define ourselves. May the sparks of your holy servants, to whom you have revealed these words to the world, shine and sparkle. May their merit, their ancestors' merit, and the merit of their Torah, their innocence and their holiness, stand for us, so as to prevent us from stumbling when we study these words. In their merit, may our eyes be illumined by what we study. The saying of the sweet singer of Israel, open my eyes, and be gaze into wonders of your Torah. May the words of my mouth, the thoughts of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. For it is the Eternal who grants wisdom. It is from his mouth that knowledge and understanding issue forth. Amen. La la na 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 na. Ah na na na. Na 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 na. Oh na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ah na na na. Na 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 na. Ah na na na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ah na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ah na 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 na. Ah na 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 na. Ah na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Ah na na na. Na 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 na. Ah na na na. Oh no 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 no.
No,
no 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 no. No 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 no. No 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 no. Oh no 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 no. All right. So tonight we begin a new Torah portion in the Zohar, Parashat Vayetze, and he left. The first verse is there on page 320 for us to look at, and it's chapter 28 in the book of Genesis, verse 10. Vayetze Yaakov mi Beersheva, vayelech Harana. Jacob left from Beersheba, and he went toward Haran. And then vayivka b'makom vayalan sham kiva hashemesh vayikach me'avnei hamakom vayasem rashotav vayishkav b'makom hahu. So he came upon a place, or the place. He came upon that place, and he spent the night there because the sun had gone down, had set. He took from the stones of that place, putting them by his head, and then he lay down at that place, or in that place. So this is, of course, the prelude to a unbelievable vision that he has, a dream, which we'll eventually get to. But the beginning is Jacob running away, and the dislocation of Jacob from his home going to Haran. We are actually going backwards to restore our chronological timeline, because we spent a lot of time last week actually moving forward to the wrestling match between Yaakov and the mysterious being, that celestial angelic representative of Esav that he wrestled with, and that happens later. It happens 20 years or more later. But now we're going back. We resume. That was a flash forward, and now we resume back to reading the story as it unfolds. He's gotten the blessing from Yitzchak. He's gotten the blessing confirmed by Yitzchak, and Rivka has arranged for Yaakov to go away because she's afraid. She's afraid because Esav is enraged and keeps on talking about killing his brother. So Yaakov has to flee. So even though the words sound very prosaic, there's actually quite a bit of terror in this report. Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran.
Rabbi?
He took the 310 to Haran. No, he actually had to jump onto the train as it was moving, because he's running for his life. Yeah.
Rabbi, do we think this is the same Haran that Avraham stayed over on the way?
Yeah.
As he's leaving,
he's going back to his mother's family.
Right.
Yeah.
This is where
that's what Rebecca says to Jacob. I wouldn't be able to take it. Esav already took local wives, and that would be terrible. I want Jacob to take a wife the right way, which means has to go back home to the family base. That's her explanation to Isaac. without saying to Isaac, I'm scared stiff that Esau will kill will kill Jacob. So there's a little bit again of subterfuge, but there's also a grain of truth in it as well. And Jacob is now leaving, hightailing it out of there. Okay. So now let's see what the Zohar makes out of this. Page 320, Parashat Vayetze, Rabbi Chia. Who's going to read? Thank you, Beryl. Whoa. Before I got the words out of my mouth.
Well, it's even better because it's in Beersheba. I never made much of a deal out of Tu B'Shvat. I heard about it in Sunday school. But 2 years ago, almost to this day, I planted a tree in front of a school in Beersheba. So it's very significant to me.
Very nice. Good for you.
Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Rabbi Hia opened. The sun rises and the sun sets, and pants toward the place where he rises.
Okay, so this is a verse, as it says here, from Kohelet, from Ecclesiastes. And as we often have, the drasha is going to begin with a verse that comes from left field, so to speak, and eventually will be tied together. So this is one of the early verses from Kohelet. The Hebrew is important for us to hear. So Divrei Kohelet ben David Melech B'Yerushalayim. These are the words of Kohelet, son of David, king in Jerusalem. So it goes, Havel Havalim, Amar Kohelet. Havel Havalim, Hakol Havel. Right. So vanity of vanities, or breaths of breaths. You know, mists, wisps of hot air. Again and again, everything is just a bunch of hot air. At least that's one way to read it. In the printed Zohar, which looks like this, so here is, right, Parashat Vayetze Yaakov, right? And here is Zohar, and here is Sitrei Torah, hidden mysteries of the Torah. So the hidden mysteries of the Torah are not here in this volume. There's a separate volume where they dealt with all of the different sections of the Zohar that are not the plain section of the Zohar. But in that, they actually start from that beginning verse of Havel Havalim. And they talk about what is this breath. The word Hevel is also steam or breath or a mist. And because it's also Abel's name, right? Cain and Hevel. And Hevel doesn't last very long on this earth and doesn't seem to have any progeny. So Hevel was just here and then gone. A wisp of smoke and then gone. But the Zohar actually thinks about these breaths as being important, that the whole world depends on these breaths. And if you see the words Havel Havalim, you've got Hevel once, Havalim is two Hevels, Amar Kohelet, Havel Havalim, Hevel is another one, and then Havalim is two more, Hakol Havel. So we get 7 Hevels in this verse. And for the Zohar, this is what the world is sustained by. So the world is actually, it's not futility and it's not vanity. It's actually the breath of God. The breath of God keeps the world sustained in its 7 breathings. We may come back to all of this a little later. Right? What's the advantage? What does the human being get out of all the work that he does under the sun? Dor holech, v'dor ba, haaretz le'olam omadet. right? A generation comes, a generation goes, a generation comes, arrives, and the earth is always the same, just staying there, right? Then we have this verse. V'zarach hashemesh uva hashemesh ve'el mekomo sho'ef zoreach hu sham. So, and then the sun shines and the sun sets, and then it goes, and then it strives to get to its place. Here we have panting. It pants to get to its place. It's works so hard, breathes so hard. We have again the idea of breath, of the breathing, right? To get to its place, mikomo, right? And that's where it shines. That's where it spreads out its light. Zoreach hu sham. Okay, so there's a little bit of a paradox here, because at the first part it says v'zarach hashemesh, which means the sun rises to shine. That's in the morning. And then uva hashemesh, and the sun sets. But once the sun sets, the el makomo sho'ef, and it strives. It works so hard. It's panting out of so much work to get to its place. Viz sho'ef zoreach hu sham, and it shines there. It shines there. But after it sets, you think that the sun is not shining. It's shining in its place. Right? This is the verse that we have in Kohelet. So now Rabbi Chia uses that verse to introduce his discussion. Okay, Rabbi Chia.
This verse has been established. But the sun rises, Jacob, when he was in Beersheba, and the sun sets when he went to Haran. As is written, he stayed there for the night because the sun had set, and pants towards his place, shining forth there, as is written, he lay down in that place.
Okay, so the word place is mikomo, is the word that we have in Kohelet, and the place is that place, that identifiable or known place, right? The rabbis in all of the midrashim, they talk about this. It doesn't say I've got bimakom, and he bumped it someplace. He came someplace and he collapsed because he was so tired. Bamakom, the place. The place, as if we know what place this is, as if it's some kind of definite, important place. So as I say, midrashim work on this quite a bit, and here the Zohar does as well, Rabbi Chia, and he says that place where Yaakov collapses to go to sleep, that's the place that he's yearning to get to, because Jacob is the sun, and Jacob's journey from Beersheba to Haran is the same thing as the journey of the sun. It's the journey of the sun to rise and then to track itself across the firmament, and then to set in its place and shine there. So that's the overall idea. Now we have it just picked apart a little bit. So first of all, sun equals Jacob, Shemesh, right? This glorious luminary, right? The source of all light in our world, right? The Ma'or HaGadol, the big light that God created, is Jacob. And he was this big light where? In Beersheba. But our verse picks up from his leaving Beersheba. Right? So Jacob is this shining, blazing source of light in his home in Beersheba, but then he has to leave Beersheba. And he's leaving Beersheba, and his leaving, is everything that leaving implies. Leaving is not so easy, especially if that's where he's shining. That's a place of his shining. That's the place of his blazing glory. When he gets to Haran, it sounds like when he gets to Haran, the sun sets. That sounds like a lessening of light to get to Haran. to get to this other place. So his journey is a journey where it sounds like he starts in blazing glory. And the implication, at least in the beginning here, we'll see, is that he's expending his light and losing that brilliance. And yet he comes to his place where he shines forth again. That place will be a place of real shining, right? And that place, not yet Haran, or is it? It's this other place. So what is this other place? So we've got three places: Beersheba, Haran, those are the two termini, right? And now this way station, which is the place that the sun always strives to get to. Yeah, Sandra. No, okay, good. Okay, and that's his shining is when he lays down in that place, right? Of course, we know later that that's when he lays down to in that place, that's when he has this amazing experience. But right now, we're just reading it, and we still don't know exactly where Rabbi Chia is going. We'll find out a little bit more as we go along. What does it mean to identify Jacob with the sun? Okay, come and see.
Come and see. Although the sun illumines the whole world, his journeyings bear in two directions, as is said, moving toward the south, circling toward the north.
Okay, this is the next verse in Kohelet, following the verse that we just looked at. Go ahead.
For one is right, the other left. Every day he flows forth from the east, heading south and north, and from the north to the west. Then the sun is drawn in, inclining west. Issuing from the east, inclining west. Issuing from the east, as is written, Jacob left Beersheba, inclining west, as is written, and set out for Haran.
Okay. So, using the verse from Ecclesiastes, we have this image of the sun, and not the way we usually think of it. The sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. No, the sun's illumination encompasses all four directions of space, right? So it starts out by rising in the east, and then it goes up north, and then it goes south, and then finally it goes to the west. So on the way to the west, it's also hitting both sides, north and south. For the Zohar, north and south are also right and left. Right and left. So what is east? If north is left, right is south, right? Then east is the top and west is the bottom. East is the starting point of the sun because the starting point is the starting point of all light, the starting point of all that there is. And then what we have here is talking about the expansion of the divine energy, the light of God's being into creating reality. It starts in the east. The east is the primordial beginning of everything. Just as we have every day begins with the sun shining in the east, creation itself, existence itself begins from the beginning. The beginning equals the east. The word in Hebrew for east is Mizrach. Mizrach, the shining. The word Mizrach simply means the thing that zoreachs, that shines. So the shining, not from the movie, but the glowing, the illumination, that's the beginning, right? God said, let there be light, and there was light. So that beginning point is called the east. And if we look at our diagram, for instance, of the Sfirot, then the top of the page is east. And the bottom of the page is west. The right side of the page is south. The left side of the page is north. Right? Correct? So, the beginning of all emanation, the beginning of all outflow of life and light and being is called the east, is called the shining out, right? The bursting forth of light, the zricha, right? The beginning of light coming forth. The right-hand side, as we know from so many times already, the right-hand side is the side of love. That's the warmth of the south. The north is the side of judgment and retribution sometimes, of constraint, of limitation, and so on. That's the north. And the west is the culmination, is where all of these directions flow together and are collected in a well where all of the waters come, and that's Shekhinah, Malchut, right? All of the different words that we have for that basin that takes all of the flow of reality and collects it together. So the sun comes out of the top, but the sun is Jacob. Jacob is the third of the patriarchs. Abraham, his grandfather, is on the right, south. Isaac is on the left, the north, and he is in the middle. And if you look at your diagram, in a certain sense, Jacob is the center where all other sfirot, all other manifestations of God radiate out from. That's the sense of Jacob being the sun. Jacob is the concentration of the light source so that it's palpable. Remember, the first 3 days of creation, there's light, but there's no sun. Mm-hmm. Right? The sun is the thickening of the spiritual light into something more palpable. As the Torah says, the sun is for us. The sun is so that human beings can point to something and go, oh, it's now another day. We can mark a season. It's now Tu B'Shvat because the seasons have changed a little bit. It's now spring and so on and so forth. So that palpable thickening of the light is what the sun and of course the moon represent. Jacob is that sun that radiates in all directions. The sun comes from, its source of light comes from the east, but it then shines forth in every direction and then yearns for it, pants. It desires to get to its place, which is where it will unite with the final destination. Yeah, Larry. Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. Let me get my thing here. Good, Larry. You have to unmute. You have to unmute.
Sorry, the chart or the map or the diagram of the Sfirot, is that printed in the Zohar, like at the beginning? No, it's just you have to read the whole Zohar, then make up the map, or
Yeah. Or you buy the book.
no. I know it's in the book, but okay. Another question is, to me, I guess because all my life I always looked at maps, like geographical maps where the north is at the top. So is that just a modern thing that I learned, or I mean?
Well, I think that the reason the north is at the top is because we have, the North Pole, which pulls a certain way, right? I think that there's a certain kind of natural reality. Craig, you know more about this than I do.
The compass points that way.
I don't know anything about why maps were made. And I just assumed that because the sun rose in the east, we just sort of said that's the right side.
That's the direction the compass points.
Right. The compass goes to the north, to the North Pole. I don't think actually, if you look at a history of maps, not every map goes to the north. Or there are maps that don't go to the north. So you can see there'll be different kinds of things. Yes, for sure.
But also when we made globes, it made sense. You'd have the north at the top so that the globe would spin horizontally and not vertically.
Right. And what about the North Star? Does the North Star have significance once we decided that north is important? Or does the North Star give us the sense of north?
North Star is in the direction of our north. It's a backward formation.
The North Star is the one star that doesn't seem to circle around anything. Everything goes around the North Star.
See that?
Although at the time of the Bible, there was probably a different North Star. But
I was going to say that it's not the same North Star because of the warbling of our planet. So they've had different stars. Yeah, wasn't always Polaris. And it's about a 2,000-year run, I think, that we have Polaris.
All right, look at that. Here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Avail havalim, right? Like a wisp of breath.
Well, Polaris will still be there. It just won't be indicating north. So as far as Polaris is concerned, nothing changed.
Just like Hollywood stars, they have their time and then they fade.
Right. All right. So what we have here is that Rabbi Chia is taking the Jacob story and transposing it into this very symbolic discussion about the unfolding of God and how various manifestations or concentrations of divine energy, how they relate to one another and how they develop one from the other. So he's actually taking a story, as I started, a story that's in human terms, a story of desperation, a story of flight, fleeing, of fear, of vulnerability, and he's taking it and he's turning it into a pristinely beautiful celebration of creation itself. He's taken all the angst out of it. He's taking all of the danger out of it so far. And he's turning it into a very calm and majestic description of the sun in its course, how the sun will emerge out of the source of infinite light and then will make its course and shed light everywhere. And that's also wonderful. And then come to rest in its designated place. How wonderful. So there's a complete overturning of what this text is, about on the simple, straightforward level. Completely washes that away. Okay. We're gonna, all right, well, one of the other things, okay, we'll get to more explication of this later. But this beginning of Rabbi Chia elicits a response from Rabbi Shimon, and we're going to go back and forth between Rabbi Chia and Rabbi Shimon a little bit. So 321, in the middle of the page there, Rabbi Shimon.
Rabbi Shimon said, he left the sphere of the land of Israel, as is written. Jacob left Beersheba and went to an alien domain, as is written, and set out for Haran, land of alien dominion.
Okay, so what Rabbi Shimon is doing is, of course, bringing some of the negative valences of this story at this moment, the episode itself, back into the story, back into the discussion. By the way, again, not only is Rabbi Chia turning the story away from this realistic story of fleeing for your life, etc., but he's also flipping the directions, because Jacob is actually going from west to east, right? He's celebrating that the sun goes from east to west, and now, and even though the story is that that the real world Jacob is running away from his brother and is leaving Beersheba and is going west to Haran. So he's leaving from he's east. He's leaving from the west and going to the east, the opposite of the sun's track. But that's not important for Rabbi Chia, because Rabbi Chia says we're not interested in the real life story. We're interested in what it represents, right? And this is what it represents. Yaakov is this magnificent embodiment of the concentration of God's energy that then radiates outward in every way. And of course seeks its mate, seeks its proper loving partner. Rabbi Shimon says, let's look at this different, right? And he brings a little dose of reality back into it. He left the land of Israel, that's leaving Beersheba. Literally, he's leaving Beersheba and he's going to Harana. He's going to Haran. That's not good. This is, dangerous. This is challenging. Haran is land of alien dominion. So look at note 9, please.
For Haran, land of alien dominion. For Haran is here linked either with the Aramaic Harana, an alternative form of
Acharina,
other, or with the Hebrew Haron, wrath. The realm outside of the land of Israel is dominated by harsh demonic forces.
Right. So for Rabbi Chia, this is a whole story of the unfolding of God within God. It's all good. It's all emanating light and alternating back and forth from one direction to the next, but it's all light bouncing back and forth in different directions within the realm of godliness. Rabbi Shimon says what we have here is another one of these stories of one of the patriarchs having to go in this quest where he's going to have to encounter evil. So he goes from the good land to the bad land. He goes from Beersheba, which is the land of Israel, the land of all goodness, and he's going out toward Charon, wrath, anger, rage, or Acharana, which is like Sitra Achra, the other side, the alien side, the place where the no good ones are. So this is Rabbi Shimon's sort of alternative and challenge, to Rabbi Chia's attempt to make a beautiful drasha. Rabbi Chia responds.
Rabbi Chia said, when the sun inclines to the west, this west is called sight of the sun, his throne, place of his abode, as is written, and pants towards his place, shining forth there, heading there to illumine it, conveying all lights, gathering them there.
Okay, let's stop here. So Rabbi Chia, Rabbi Chia in a certain sense is like almost ignoring Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Chia is elaborating on his drasha, and if we didn't have Rabbi Shimon in the middle, it could have just been a completely smooth elaboration of what Rabbi Chia wanted to say. To a certain extent, then what we have is Rabbi Chia saying, I'm not letting you stop me, right? Rabbi Shimon, with all due respect, and of course, Rabbi Shimon is his teacher. He says, I'm seeing this in this, in this blazing gestalt, and I want to work it out that way. So he says, the sun going toward the west, and when we think about it from our own perspective, we think about what the sun setting as, that's it for the sun, right? No more sun. To a certain extent, the heat of the sun usually is not quite as strong as it's setting the last couple of hours as it is when it's midday and it's strong. We have the psalmist talking about the sun coming out like a valiant, strong warrior or groom coming from the marriage canopy. But Rabbi Chia says, no, actually the setting of the sun is what the sun wants all along. The sun getting to the west is the sun coming home, coming to its proper place. The whole journey of the sun across the sky, which for us is what's all important, and the whole significance of the sun is when the sun is up there in the sky shining for us. Actually, for the sun, that's just a necessary road. What really is the sun's goal is to get to the place of setting, because that place of setting is its real place. That's the makom. That's the home. That's where the son will unite with his beloved and feel perfectly good and completed and fulfilled. That west is the site of the sun, the site, the makom. So that's that word makom that we have in the Ecclesiastes, in the Kohelet verse, the makom that's over here also in the Torah, in Vayetze. That's the real makom of, you gotta go? Sandra, you said, so what's the thank you?
I'm sorry, I was just responding. I was
In
responding.
chat, we put a couple of links and stuff. That's all regarding the whole North Star maps, all of that.
Oh, yeah, really? Oh, I didn't see that.
For later reading.
All right, good.
For later reading, it's all very interesting. Yeah.
Very good. Good. So,
didn't mean to
so Rabbi
interrupt.
Chia says that's really the sun's place, the place of the sun's abode, right? Because it's sho'ef el makomo. It wants to get there. It's like heavy breathing. It really wants to get to that place. And that's where it shines. So you and I may not see the sun shining after it sets in the west, but you know what? That's actually when it's really shining. When it's really shining is when we can't see it shining, right? Because the sun does us a favor of shedding a little bit of light here and there for us, but actually for the sun, it's something else completely, right? It's coming to that other place of rest and union, right? Heading there to illuminate, conveying all lights, gathering them there. Okay, so this, of course, is the union of the Kudsha B'richu, the son, Yaakov, with his beloved, with his other half, with Shechina, with Malchut. That's where, when they are united together, in this dark secret place of their own, that's when they shine. That's when the sun is most brilliantly shining, when it's united with his beloved. Okay. So, and of course, gathering them there, that's what she does. She takes him in. She collects all of the love, all of the energy, all of the flow, and accepts it, and then gives it the place to grow and to live and to make more life, more light. Okay, this corresponds.
This corresponds to what we have learned. The Blessed Holy One puts on tefillin, for he receives all supernal crowns. Who are they? And put them.
No.
No,
Mystery.
I'm on the wrong page. Wrong page. Mystery of supernal Father. Mystery of Mother. Who are tefillin of the head?
Who are the tefillin of the head? The father and the mother, the mysterious father and mother, they are the head tefillin.
As we have learned, a priest receives at the head. After receiving father and mother, he receives right and left, thereby receiving all. Thereby the Blessed Holy One receives all. Okay, so now we have a little surprise. He pulls out this different image here and says, the Blessed Holy One puts on tefillin. So this is an image that comes from the Talmud, and you have a long note, note 11, right? So let's start from, hopefully we're familiar with tefillin itself, right? And let's go to the paragraph on the right-hand side where it says, see Babylonian Talmud Brachot 6a. Rabbi Avin, son of Rabbi Ada, said, in the name of Rabbi Yitzhak, how do we know that the Blessed Holy One puts on tefillin? For it is said, Yud-He Vav-He has sworn by his right hand and by the arm of his strength. By his right hand, this is Torah, as is said. At his right hand was a fiery law unto them. And by the arm of his strength, this is tefillin, as is said. Yud-He Vav-He will give strength unto his people. How do we know that tefillin are strength to Israel? For it is written, all the peoples of the earth shall see that the name of Yud-He Vav-He is proclaimed upon you, and they shall be in awe of you. And it has been taught, Rabbi Eliezer the Great says, this refers to the tefillin of the head. Rabbi Nachman, son of Yitzhak, asked Rabbi Dia, son of Avin, these tefillin of the Master of the universe, what is written in them? He replied, who is like your people Israel, a unique nation on earth? Here, the Blessed Holy One refers to Teferet. Good. So that Gemara tells us that not only does every Israelite supposed to put on tefillin, traditionally put on tefillin, but actually God also puts on tefillin. And this is part of a whole bigger picture that everything that we do is actually an imitation of God, and that God doesn't ask us to do anything that God doesn't do. So if God tells us to put on tefillin, it's because God puts on tefillin, which means also when we put on tefillin, we're imitating God. What is it that is so special about the tefillin? So we have this whole idea that the tefillin are connected to the Torah, and of course they have parchments of Torah written on them, and then that writing those words is then bound to our heart, to our arm, and to our head. And then what we have here is the Torah says, when everybody sees that the name of God is proclaimed upon you, they shall be in awe of you. So this is the tefillin of the head, because the arm tefillin, nobody sees. Theoretically speaking, the arm tefillin are supposed to be covered up. They're covered up by the sleeve of your jacket, your shirt, the talus. If you have some traditional tefillin, they have an inner cap that is that's left on the hand tefillin. The hand tefillin are private. The head tefillin are public. The head tefillin are meant to be a crown, a diadem. And that's what everybody's supposed to see. Everybody's supposed to see that you have a crown on your head, and that crown is God's name. Another word for crown is pe'er.
So we have, for instance, in Anim Zmirot, at the end we have Pe'ero alai u'fe'eri alav, right? His pe'er is on me, his crown is on me. I wear the tefillin with God's name in it. I proclaim God's royalty, and my crown is on God, right? And God wears the tefillin shel rosh that proclaims how special Israel is. What does it say in God's tefillin? Shema Yisrael. Does God have to have in God's tefillin that God believes in one God? No. What's in God's tefillin is that there is such a unique, the oneness. I believe in the oneness of Israel, right? Mikamcha Yisrael goy echad ba'aretz. This unique people. So God has pe'er, we have pe'er. Of course, the word pe'er is also the word that is the root of tiferet, right? Which is that core, shining, glorious concentration of divine energy, which is Yaakov. The tradition understood when Jeremiah is told by God, Chavosh pe'er, right? Put on the tefillin, is the way the tradition explains. Usually a mourner before, the first day of mourning, before they bury their dead, they don't have to put on tefillin. No, but God says you should put on your tefillin. So pe'er is a name for tefillin, and tiferet then is the one who has this glorious crown upon his head. And what is that? The Holy Blessed One, which is the Kutcha Brichu, which is Jacob, which is the Son, has tefillin on their head. What does it mean they have tefillin on their head? The word head is rosh. Rosh means beginning. So like Bereshit, in the beginning, that has the word rosh in it, right? The beginning of the Kutcha Brichu is tefillin. The head tefillin on that crown, the Holy Blessed One, that head tefillin is the beginning of the Holy Blessed One. So who is the beginning of the Holy Blessed One? Who are the tefillin of the Holy Blessed One? And remember also that tefillin is plural. The mystery of the supernal Father and supernal Mother. That's Chochmah and Bina. Abba ve'ima ilah. The higher Father and Mother, who are united together as one, and who never depart one from the other. They are the Rosh. They are the beginning of what Kutcha B'richu comes from. Kutcha B'richu actually flows out of that mysterious original source. So that's the Mizrach, actually. That's the place of shining. That's the place where the shining first happens before it becomes Shemesh. The first 3 days, the mysterious days of light without any source, it's because we can't even grasp that source. That's Chochmah and Bina, right? Abba ilah, Ima ilah, the higher Father and Mother, who together unite and let the flow start moving to then congeal at Kutcha B'richu, at the Holy Blessed One, at Jacob, at the Son, right? Where it takes on this concentrated and graspable aspect. So God's mysterious beginnings are beginnings that all we know about is that it's a union of love that is eternal and unbreakable. That unbreakable union of love then gushes forth and takes on various shapes and manifestations until, of course, we get to the point where the union is contingent. The first union, the tefillin at the head of Kutcha B'richu, are united as one, right? The oneness, we proclaim God's oneness, God proclaims our oneness and uniqueness, but the oneness and uniqueness of God at the beginning is absolutely incontrovertible, unchallengeable, unmodified in any way. But when we finally get down to Kudsha B'richu yearns for oneness. Kudsha B'richu yearns for the oneness of uniting with Shechina, right? That's the sho'ef, the panting, right? That's where desire becomes a factor that is not always satisfied. The desire of Abba and Ima, of father and mother, in the highest realm, that's a desire which is in constant fullness of satisfaction. The desire, as it ramifies later on, becomes much more fragmented, and therefore it becomes subject to diversions. It becomes subject to obstacles. It becomes subject to diminution, right? To making it less and small, right? That's the factors that we learn, of course, are the product and the cost of creating the world that we have, rather than the amorphous eternal realm that's higher up. What the Son does, what Yaakov does, is it brings some of that so that we can intuit what might be, what kind of light could be, but it's never quite that light, right? It's its own much more tangible reality. So they are the tefillin of the head. They are the united glory that are at the beginning of Tiferet, of Kudsha B'richu. And then we have a play on words where we have a halachic statement, Kohen notel barosh, that the Kohen always takes first. But the word rosh there is understood also as meaning that the priest takes their standing because of the rosh, because of the tefillin of the head. And after receiving father and mother, he receives right and left, thereby receiving all. Thereby, the Blessed Holy One receives all. Right? The priest, of course, is chesed. And then you have right and left. The father and the mother are theoretically right and left, but they're so united that there is no right and left, because right and left signifies two separate sides. But father and mother are united completely. So they are, all mixed in with each other. But then eventually we have the ramification of right and left as separate directions. And the Kudsha B'richu, the Son, has to take that light from the undifferentiated east, the source of all light, and then begin distributing it to the right and to the left, and going down and down, finally to the west. All right. Any comments? I'm glad it's so clear. Good. All right, Rabbi Elazar.
Rabbi Elazar said, beauty of Israel receives all, and when assembly of Israel is drawn above, she too receives all. World of the male, blessed Holy One, and world of the female, of the Blessed Holy One. Just as all lights radiate from that world, so all is absorbed by this world, one corresponding to the other, so it is called their Sheva.
Okay, so now Rabbi Elazar continues with Rabbi Chia's line of thought, and he says, yes, so beauty of Israel, Tiferet Yisrael, or Tiferet, or Kudsha B'richu, or Jacob, receives all from above, right? That flowing down of the tefillin of the head comes down upon us. By the way, we signify that kind of flowing by having the head tefillin with the straps that flow down in front of us, right? That flow down our body in a strap on the right and a strap on the left. So we receive all, and then assembly of Israel, Knesset Yisrael, assembly meaning the collecting, the congregating, the pulling it all together, assembling it all, and bringing it into another union. That's, of course, Knesset Yisrael is Shekhinah, right? So she too receives all. So the male is Kudsha B'richu, the female is Shekhinah, and they are the ones that now are receiving all. First, Kudsha B'richu receives from high above, and then Kudsha B'richu pours it all into Shekhinah. So we have these stations of collecting and then moving it on and pushing it forward. Okay, so just as all lights radiate from that world, so all is absorbed by this world. Radiating is what the sun does. That's the active pushing out of light that the Kudsha B'richu does. What does Shekhinah do? Absorb. She absorbs the light, right? She receives the light. She takes it all in. That's why she is assembling all of what Israel is giving. Israel is another name for Jacob, right? So, so she takes all of this light that Jacob is pushing forward, and she collects it all. And that's why she is called Be'er Sheva. So Be'er Sheva is the well of the seven. The well is where is the place that collects all the waters. Where do the waters come from? They come from the seven manifestations of God that come from Chesed down. There are three manifestations that are so mysterious that we can't talk about them. Keter, Chochmah, and Bina. And that's the father and the mother. So they don't count. They're up there in a place that we can only just make believe that we can talk about. And then the seven later Sfirot are the seven Sfirot of creation of the world. Right? The 7 days of creation are the 7 days of real unfolding and manifestation of God in terms of the reality that we know. So she is the Be'er Sheva. She is the well that collects all of these 7 sources of energy and light and life that are God pouring out God's own self to make a world. So 1 second. So just now, of course, the point being then, Jacob left Beersheba and went to Haran. So Jacob was united with Beersheba. Right? Jacob was with Beersheba. Jacob was in Beersheba, literally in Beersheba. But then he had to leave. Right? Yeah, David.
The 7 are 6 Sfirot above Malchut plus Malchut?
Correct. Right. And we're going to see more of this right now. Come and see.
Come and see. Be'er Sheva, this Jubilee. Be'er Sheva, even sabbatical. All is the Blessed Holy One, for one corresponds to the other. The sun shines only from Jubilee, from Be'er Sheva. So Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran, the west.
So not so terrible. What now is understood according to this way of looking at it? Beersheba is both Jubilee and sabbatical. Beersheba refers both to Yovel, the Jubilee year, and it also refers to Shemitah, Shvi'it, the 7th year, the sabbatical year. How does that work? It depends which way you look. From the beginning perspective, everything flows out of the place that has collected the potential for the 7 lower Sfirot. That is the mother. That is Bina. That is Yovel. Right? Yovel Binah is the one who encompasses all of the potential unfolding 7 sfirot. And in a certain sense, she is, as we have in the notes, we're not going to look at them right now. She's considered, there are 50 gates of wisdom, and Yovel is the 50th year of the repetition of the 7 and 7 and 7 year cycle of Shemitah 7 times, and then Yovel. So Yovel is a name for Binah. She collects not only the 7 sfirot, but the 7 sevens, right? The 7 cycles of the 7 sfirot working themselves out again and again and again. She has it all in potentia, and then she releases them into actuality, and that's how we get the 7 sfirot that we have in our diagram. So that's Be'er Sheva above. But then we have Be'er Sheva below. That's the sabbatical year. That's Shemitah. Shemitah is Shechina. Shechina is where the other 6 sfirot come to rest, where the other 6 potencies of the divine collect themselves and find the place where they are all at peace with each other. So that's what Shemitah is supposed to be about. So therefore, what do we have here? Jacob leaves Be'er Sheva above. Be'er Sheva, the place where the light first begins to start flowing. And he becomes Kudsha B'richu, he becomes the sun itself, yearning to sort of recapture that place by uniting with Shechina. So Shechina is the lower version of the first unification of the 7. That's why we have Shechina also called the lower mother. And of course, she is the mother of all reality as we know it. Binah is the mother of divine reality, and Shechina is the mother of earthly reality. That's what we had before, where it says this world and that world. Binah is the mother of that world. Shechina is the mother of this world. Yud, Hey, Vav, Hey. The 4 letters of God are mapped out onto the 10 sfirot, where the tip of the Yud is Ein Sof, Keter, right? Just the merest hint of a letter. The Yud itself, this tiny little letter, the smallest of all letters, that's the point where reality begins to manifest. That's Chokhmah. The next letter is Hey. That Hey is Binah. Then Vav. Vav is 6 sfirot. So we've got the Kotzel Shel Yud, the Yud, and the Hey. That's the 3 upper levels of God that are almost impossible to even talk about. Then Vav, the 6 ramifications of God coming a little bit of this more, a little bit of that more, so we can actually start talking about God in our own way. And then another Hey. That's Malchut, that's Shechina. So the Hey, there's an upper Hey, a first Hey, that's Binah. There's a second Hey, that's Shechina. The upper Hey is the lower Hey, only so much more. Just like the lower Hey is Shemitah, the 7th sabbatical year, and the upper Hey is the 7th sabbatical year on steroids, is Yovel. Right? So, and of course, Yovel is the time where everything returns. Everybody returns to their makom, to their place. So Binah is not only the mother that sends everyone out, but Binah is also the mother to whom everybody wants to return. We all want to return to the womb. We all want to find a way to get back to that beautiful, wonderful, warm and nurturing place. Shechina is the best we can do, right? At least for now. right? Shechina is that second womb, is the second womb that Kudsha Baruch Hu finds. Just like Yitzchak found Rivka as a consolation for his mother, Sarah, right? Okay, so this is the way that they're picturing this trip. And again, to repeat what I said before, it takes off all of the thriller, angst of hold on a second, of the story as it really is unfolding. Yaakov running away to save his life. And it goes instead into this celebration and meditation on the unfolding of God's reality into a God that we can relate to. Okay, so now Mark has a couple of comments here, and it says, "Is there any importance to fives?" And then to 2 fives. So what are the fives? What are you referring to?
Hey.
Yes. So hey is the letter that has the numerical value is 5, and 2 fives then make 10. Is it a coincidence? So I don't think so. Right. So yes. So there are other places where those kinds of things are discussed, and where we have, for instance, even earlier than the Zohar, we have the idea that our hands, right, are usually divided up into 2 fives, right? And the blessing of the priests is the outstretching of the hands, and we configure the hands a certain way, perhaps. But the idea being that those 5 and 5, those are the 10 potencies. Yes, they represent and correspond to this decade reality of the way that God has has unfolded. Yeah. Okay, and of course we know next week we'll have 5 5 dibrot on one tablet, 5 dibrot on the other tablet, right? Yeah, so 5s work out sometimes also, but much more extensive is the 7-3. That's a much more important division for the Zohar and beyond. Okay, any other comments for tonight? Okay, we'll see what Rabbi Shimon has to say in response next time, I hope. All right, sei gesund und stark.